Welcome back, everybody, to AFL Timeline History, and we have made it to Madden 25, our very first attempt at AFL post Ridge, as we talked about on the Madden 13 Season 7 show. Ridge was moving on from AFL, but AFL was still moving on down the road. With me here is Magic and Stokes. How's it going, Magic?
Oh, pretty good, guys. Pretty good.
Welcome back to the history shows, and Stokes, you've been with us now for the last 7 or 8 shows, so same as it ever was for you.
Cheer.
So, guys, we made it to Madden 25, and we knew going in that Madden 25 was going to be a very unique season because mid-Madden 25, I think November-ish, was when the next-gen system was going to launch, and we had made a preseason decision that we just wouldn't go next-gen until Madden 15. But as you'll see, as these history shows go up, a couple guys start buying PS4s, a couple more do, hey, what are we going to do? We're gamers. A new system comes out, that's what happens. And eventually we had, it did what we were afraid of, and it hurt the longevity of Madden 25 on PS3, but also created something on PS4. So this is going to be a very unique version of Madden. Guys, this is our first year without Ridge. We also had some new faces join us this year. We had KJ join us, who has been one of our best owners since. We also had on the Stokes tree, he's going to call it the Han tree, but the Stokes tree, G-Pack join us. And it's interesting that we mentioned that, Stokes, because he joined a very exclusive club as joining Han, Ridge, and Stokes up to this point, and Nino, as the only guys to ever win a Super Bowl in their very first season. G-Pack walks away with the Madden 25 Season 1 Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was exciting because obviously I was pulling for my guy, and I brought him into the league hoping he would do well, and fortunately he was able to take the Raiders to a Super Bowl, and he was excited about it, and unfortunately, he was excited about it.
Yeah, he was very excited about it, and honestly, we talked about in Madden 13 when Bailey won that it was a surprise because Bailey had kind of established himself as not at that point in time as like a second tier level guy where he's going to make the playoffs from time to time but never really did much damage. Since that time, Bailey has gone on to be a guy that wins Super Bowls, and if he wins one now, it's just like, oh cool, Bailey won. It's not like, oh my god, Bailey won. At this point in time with G-Pack, you were one of the only guys that really knew of him. Like, we talked to him on Facebook, we got to know him as a person, but as far as what he could do Madden-wise, he just was such a new face that it wasn't even a surprise that he won. It was just more like, man, we got another heavy hitter in this league.
Yeah, I grew to know him over PS2 Madden, and that's when he was really at his best. He was one of the best players for years in the league that KJ and I were in, and he had still been trying to overcome getting better at the PS3 Madden, and when he's able to focus and not many distractions, he's really good. And I think that that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm generally always in his corner, other than the fact that he's my friend. But I just think that when he's on, he's one of the best owners we can have.
And then Magic, from the standpoint of the guy who lost the Super Bowl, it's K-Will. At this point, this is only his second trip to a Super Bowl and losing it, but he did have a couple more appearances down the line. And in this particular version of Madden, they developed the run-free system, which we eventually learned meant that running was going to be completely overpowered in this version of Madden. K-Will traded for Adrian Peterson early, and I remember in this NFC Championship game against Nino, we can talk about in a second, Peterson just carried the day for K-Will. Looking back now, when you look at what G-Pack really didn't capitalize on, won the Super Bowl for whatever reason, Stokes saying not focused, whatever, never really had that level of success again in AFL despite being here for a couple more Maddens. This looks like, for K-Will, Magic, the one that got away.
Definitely. It would be like if the Cowboys had lost to the Bills at any time. You'd look back and think, well, I mean, how did that happen? The Cowboys came in with such power. What's the problem, Stokes? Is this a bad
No, no,
analogy?
go ahead. Go
All
right
right.
ahead.
You know, K-Will came in as the favorite. He was a guy that we've gotten to know over the past couple of years as and we recruited him as someone good. He came in and was still good, not like when we recruit certain people and they come in and then they get their doors blown off and then they leave. K-Will came in and was still good and was making deep playoff runs, not always to the Super Bowl as you pointed out, but he was a guy that you wouldn't be surprised when he was a win he's going to win one guy, not a if he wins one guy. And then he comes in and he blows it against the Hantry. What is this?
And the thing about K-Will, which makes it even more disappointing, is when you look at his playoff run, he gets a bye with the Eagles. He takes on Cheesin's Panthers in the division round, and then he takes on Nino's Bears in the conference championship game. And I remember watching this game on stream. I don't remember who was streaming at this point. Maybe it was K-Will even, because he also streamed the bowl, so it probably was K-Will. And it would just be like Nino had four guys in position to make the tackle, and it would just be truck, 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 truck. And Peterson wouldn't even slow down. Like, he would just run you over and keep his speed. And I'm not one to feel bad for Nino, but throughout that game, I was like, there's literally nothing he can do. Like, he has guys in position to make the tackle, and they're just getting run over like bowling pins. And this game is broken. K-Will's going to win this bowl going away because he has Adrian Peterson and everybody else doesn't. So he takes out Cheesin. He takes out Nino. And then Stokes, he goes to the Super Bowl and loses to a guy that he probably doesn't know anything about. Just very disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, knowing what I know about Cable now, I didn't know him all that well when I had first or during this time in AFL, and I've grown to have a love for Cable, and it makes me happy that G-Bag beat him in the ball. So because it's something to mock him about, because if he had won this bowl, then I couldn't mock him the way I currently mock him.
Well, we're going to get back to GPAC a little bit because his one and only bowl, this kind of feels like a GPAC episode. But let's just look at some of the guys who made the tournament because Madden 25, especially early on, I remember AFL just being super deep. Even post-Ridge, AFL was super deep. The AFC East, the winner was Pepe, Dat PR boy.
Hey.
AFC South was, what's up?
I remember him.
Remember him?
Yeah, the guy who
AFC
beat him
South, the winner was Dom, and that was Stokes' division. Stokes was the Houston Texans, so we're going to hopefully see Stokes down under the wild card teams. And then we have Kite in the Bengals, G-Pack with the Raiders, K-Will's Eagles, Cheesin's Panthers, Nino's Bears, and SJR's Seahawks. Now, guys, listen to these wild card teams: Josh, Joker, Bailey, and Hadley. So we had some big names, but there is one very big omission. Stokes, you didn't make the playoffs.
It's the first and only time in AFL that I missed the playoffs. It was very disappointing. I think I started off like 2-4, something like that, and I just had a bad start with the Texans, and I wasn't able to overcome that. And I was very disappointed in myself that I didn't make the playoffs, and it's still something that I don't like to think about.
Poor Stokes. Poor Stokes. Let's talk about now GPAC's playoff run, because this is a GPAC episode. He wins the bowl, so he gets the shine on this episode. We're going to show his trophy. In the divisional round, he takes on Joker's Chargers. Joker defeated Dom in the wild card round. He beats Joker. Then he goes on to take on Pepe's Dolphins. His Dolphins beat my Bills in the division round, and then he beats K-Will in the Super Bowl. I remember the game against the Dolphins and the Super Bowls being close, and I remember early on he had Joker's number. I don't remember if that game was close or not, but I remember Joker just getting frustrated that he couldn't solve GPAC. So, guys, GPAC was a good player. He won a bowl. He won a bowl in his first season. Stokes says when he's at his best, he's a Super Bowl contender. I'm not going to argue that. But honestly, when GPAC came in is when I started to kind of sputter as far as my activity level goes. So I'm not really the best to speak on it. Stokes, you guys are friends away from Madden, but I feel like GPAC's the kind of guy that, even though he hasn't been with us for a while, based on what we've seen from him when he's at his best, if he wants back in, he's a guy that's going to get a spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I will always be in this corner. He actually walked my wife down the aisle to our wedding, which is pretty cool.
Magic and I were busy that weekend, by the way. Stokes asked us first, and then we had to say no.
Yeah, so
Sorry about that, Stokes.
Last option. I understand. But I think that when he has the motivation to do it, and I think as he's gotten older, that has really dissipated in him because he's found other things to occupy himself with. But I hope that this year, when and if we ask him if he wants in AFL, that he will want in, and that he'll be back to the guy that I know he could be. Because not a lot of people will remember the player that I remember, and it's unfortunate because he's been really good for a long time in Madden, and now it's like swag almost, where you know that there's this latent good Madden player down deep, but it's just a matter of whether that's going to come out or not.
It's a good point, but the difference between GPAC and swag is GPAC got his name on the board. Like, he is forever etched in stone, or at least etched in Facebook, as a guy that took a Super Bowl trophy home. So if he never comes back to AFL, if for whatever reason he doesn't have the motivation or it just doesn't line up, his name is always going to be on the board as a Super Bowl champion because he got over the hump. He got the trophy season 1. Congratulations to him in his first season in AFL. His Oakland Raiders take home the hardware, and we move on to season 2. And in season 2, before it even started, one of our commissioners walks away. We'll talk about that on the next episode of AFL Timeline History.